I'm sure you'll have been able to solve the earlier type of simultaneous equations that typically appear in the middle of the paper, but this type of simultaneous equation is what I call the back page version. It normally appears on the back or the second to last page of the paper. The way we solve these simultaneous equations is the triple or quadruple S method. First of all, we substitute. We substitute one of the equations into the others. Then we simplify. We then do whatever algebra is required to solve the equation, to find our first letter, and then we have to solve to find our second letter. Okay, so let's substitute. What I mean by that is we're trying to get this second equation, the simpler one, into the more complex looking one. Now, because the second one tells me that y is the same as x add 7, I can replace the y in the top equation with an x add 7. So let's rewrite that top equation out now as x squared add x minus 7 squared equals 25. I've substituted. Now let's simplify. Well, I can see here I've got an x minus 7 squared. That means x minus 7 multiplied by x minus 7. Maths now tells me that I need to expand this double bracket, and by maths I just mean common sense in maths. X squared add, within here we've got x squared minus 7x minus another 7x, add 49 equals 25. Keep simplifying. Okay, we've got 2x squareds. I've also got minus 7x minus 7x. That'll give me minus 14x. I've then got a minus 49, a plus 49 equals 25. I'm left with a quadratic, and whenever I have a quadratic equation I know I have to make it equal 0. So what I'm just going to do now is take away that 25 from the right. That will allow me the equation to equal 0. This leaves me with 2x squared minus 14x plus 24 equals 0. Now there are lots of things I can do at this point, and you might know things to do to take shortcuts here, but ultimately I've got a quadratic equation that needs solving, and there are two methods to do it. I can either factorise or I can use the quadratic formula. I'm going to use the quadratic formula, and if you're not familiar with that, have a look at the other video that focuses on it. So to solve this quadratic equation, I know that I need to know my a, b and c values. So in this case, a is 2, b is negative 14 and c is 24. When I put that into my quadratic formula, which is given to me on page 2 of the exam and which is covered in a previous video, I get x equals negative b, which is 14, plus or minus the square root of b squared, and remember negative 14 squared is the same as positive 14 squared, because a minus 14 times a minus 14 turns into a positive answer, minus 4 times by my a value times by my c value, all divided by 2 of my a values. So 2 multiplied by my a value, which is 2. I'm going to substitute that into my calculator, remembering to do it once with the plus here and once with the minus here. And when I put a positive value in, the positive sign here, and substitute everything in, I get x equals 4. And when I put the negative in, I get x equals 3. So now, not only have I substituted, I've simplified, that's the part on the left, and I've solved. And remember, there are other ways that you can sometimes solve at this point. But the quadratic formula is always a good one to rely on. Remember, when you work out simultaneous equations, it's not just working out one letter, we have to work out the other letter. Now, somewhere on this page, there is a formula, part of the question, where I can use very easily the x values I've got to work out the y. And that's this part of the question. The y values is the x value, take away 7. So here, when my x value is 4, my y value is 4, take away 7, which is minus 3. And on this side, my y value is 3, take away 7, which is minus 4. These are my solutions. When x is 4, y would be minus 3. Or when x is 3, y will be minus 4. And now I've solved for my other variable. Okay, here's a question for you to do. Pause now before you see the first part of the answer. So my method will be to substitute, simplify, solve and solve. Let's substitute this second one into the top one. On this particular question, I can't substitute it directly because I haven't got y equals or x equals. So actually, within this second equation, if I just add x to both sides, I very quickly get y equals x add 3. And can you see all I've had to do there is add the x to both sides to eliminate this negative x on the left and to get it onto the right hand side. Now I can substitute this into the first one. So instead of saying x squared add y squared, because y is x add 3, I can now write x squared add x add 3 squared equals 29. I've substituted. Now I need to simplify. Start by expanding the double bracket and then simplify as shown. Remember, when you've got a quadratic equation, we always need it to equal 0. So let's take that 29 off both sides. Remember, there are multiple ways to solve this, but I'm going to use the quadratic formula, so I need to write down my values of a, which will be 2, b, which will be 6, and c, which will be minus 20. Let's now put those into the formula. And when we've got our x values, we now need to solve to find our y values. And I can see here that y equals x add 3. So my x values added 3, minus 5 add 3 is minus 2, and 2 add 3 is 5. These are my answers. When x is minus 5, y is 2, or when x is 2, y is 5.